The next question has been alluded to as unemployment being a problem. And some have suggested that county government could provide the vision and seed money to attract private sector job creation. And what is your view of such collaboration, assistance, and so on, in light of, again, the county's budget problem? We're going to be talking quite a bit about money because that's the root of all evils, I guess. And we'll start with Mr. Ramos on that.
Okay. Certainly the unemployment and job creation, unemployment back in March 2011 was about 13%. And you can see the unemployment, how it's moving. But I believe it starts again with the different images that people have of San Bernardino County. I've read the papers just like everybody else. There's negative images that are out there. But it starts at the top level of county government, of your elected leaders working together for a common cause. Once you start to see a positive atmosphere starting to move forward, business leaders are going to be able to see that there's a new day and a new era in San Bernardino County. They will promote new business growth in our areas. And you'll be able to get out there and market those growths to make sure that small businesses can move forward. And there's two different ways of marketing. One, when people are lined up out your door to do business with you, well then you could probably put up barriers to entry. But when nobody's out there willing to do business with you, maybe you should ease some of those regulations to increase business, to increase jobs. Now some will say that the government's not in the position to create jobs, but they're in a position to hinder job growth. We have to be able to work together to create the economy, to make sure jobs are being created, and to really support small business and those that are moving forward in this arena.
Mr. Bagley?
One of the tools that the Board of Supervisors has for job creation is a workforce investment board. And again, I believe that those dollars should come back and they should be equitably spread around the community so there's opportunities for job training. There's nothing more important in this economy than the creation of jobs. Improving government operations for the county is one of the things I think is important. The county has such a bad reputation throughout Southern California and our region that I think it hinders some development from coming here. Who wants to come and do business with a county that is so steeped in corruption? There are ways for us to change that image. You've got to change what's happening at the Board of Supervisors. That's part of the theme of my campaign. And making sure also that the county doesn't get in the way of small businesses trying to make a living. There are some unique areas up in the mountain areas and throughout the unincorporated communities of the 3rd District where businesses have evolved over 4 years ago that don't meet the current development standards today, like parking. Restaurants that may have been designed 40 years ago or way before that when they were Model Ts don't meet the modern requirements for parking. We need to make accommodations to make sure that those businesses and the people who own those buildings can remain in those businesses as viable business entities. That's something the county can do.
Mr. Derry?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Bagley, for mentioning something. Thank you, Mr. Bagley, for mentioning something I've already done. We recently passed an ordinance changing the parking requirements in the county because businesses were either, particular restaurants were going to be shut down or were not going to be able to open. When those complaints came to my office, we stepped forward. We stepped in with staff. We made the changes necessary, and it was passed just a few weeks ago at the Board of Supervisors, the final ordinance. Those are issues, and my office has been engaged with the planning staff, which has been not done a very good job in moving projects forward or fairly. And I've had to step in, and my office has had to step in and get these projects moving again. There's no reason that a project should take 10 years to get through the county planning staff. And that's what's happened. I took a project that was in a coma for 10 years, moved it forward and got it approved in a year because I pushed staff to get it done. That's what it takes from a county supervisor, somebody who understands the community they're serving, the issues that they're dealing with. And I and my staff have been fantastic at it. I would also say that government does not create jobs. Government does get in the way most of the time. And we're dealing with the state and the state of California with the most significant, difficult regulations in the country. And the county hasn't helped itself either. I mentioned that the ordinance on parking. Well, the reason we needed to change it is because we have a one-size-fits-all general plan. They compare Big Bear and the mountain communities to the desert and the valley. And they don't make any references or changes based on those factors, which means they're applying the same rules to Mentone as they are to Big Bear City, which is stupid. We are going to be looking at redoing our general plan. It's going to cost us some money, but doing it so that every area is actually recognized, not just with some little community plan that can be ignored, but with real changes in zoning and code enforcement to make, and code and our codes, to make sure that they make sense for the different communities they serve. It was mentioned that I have the most diverse district in the county. I do. I've got the deserts up in Barstow, Lucerne. I now have the entire Morongo Basin. I have half the mountains, and I have the East Valley. It is by far the most diverse area. And I understand that diversity, and we're going to make the improvements necessary to make sure that people can operate their businesses in the big area.
Okay, now we're back to what county resources can come to Big Bear Valley. Recognizing that the mountain resorts attract many tourists to the county, what county resources could be brought to the unincorporated areas of Big Bear Valley to meet the needs of the resort areas, such as business assistance, neighborhood rehabilitation, and economic development, which we kind of have touched on, but this is more specific. Mr. Bagley.
Well, one of the tools that the County Board of Supervisors also has is the transient occupancy tax. That's the tax you pay when you go to a hotel room. And those taxes are, in the incorporated cities, go into their budgets, but in the unincorporated areas, that transient occupancy tax, or the TOT tax, should come back into your community, in my opinion. It's connected directly to tourism. Those dollars should be earmarked to come back through your chamber and do things in your community to help foster tourism. It's a very vital tool that we can provide. In the mountain areas, again, you have very unique issues like snow removal and fire, and those county resources need to be focused here to accommodate the needs that are actually in this community. Every community in the 3rd district is unique, and the supervisor does need to recognize the special needs of all those districts. And the Big Bear Valley is certainly one of the jewels of San Bernardino County, and not just of San Bernardino County, but of all Southern California and the region. And that is an essential role for the supervisor to understand and be fighting for your fair share of all resources that can come back into the basin.
Mr. Ramos.
Yeah, I think one thing that the county can do is make sure that you have clear roads come up through all seasons of the year to make sure tourism dollars do come up, because that's one of the biggest things that drives the economy. But also to be able to work together with counterparts on the County Board of Supervisors to ensure that those roads are clear. From the bottom of Highland, coming up 330, through Running Springs to get to Big Bear Lake and Big Bear Valley and Baldwin and Fawnskin, and to make sure that 38 is clear all the way around, and to make sure that adequate resources are there. Because every time something happens and those roads are clogged, that's commerce that isn't getting here. That's commerce that isn't getting to the businesses here. So number one, roads have to be a top priority there. But also working with the business community and understanding that the sales tax and the sales and use tax that goes into that discretionary income can come back through different discretionary income spending. That means funding different programs that are out there, like the chamber, like different things that are out there to market the mountaintop for what it is. Make no mistake about it, San Bernardino County, this is a jewel. Big Bear Mountain, the Big Bear Valley area is a jewel for people to visit year-round. But it has to be marketed. It has to be, the leaders have to be speaking about it so that people are enticed to come up. We have to be able to market, and it comes back to your leaders saying good things about the county in which they live in.
Mr. Derrick.
There's so many confusing things I'm hearing. One, the highways heading up here are Caltrans' responsibility in the state of California, not ours. And we have worked with Caltrans to get the 330 open more rapidly. Ray Wolf pulled me into his office and said, Neil, I can get this open in 6 months, but you have to cover my back with the press. I said, Ray, anything you need, we're there. And we got it open in 6 months. Even though it's not technically my accomplishment, we all had played a part in that. But let's also talk about the revenues that the county has. The TOT tax was mentioned, it should come back to the chambers. It does come back to the chambers. And my goal is to make sure that it continues to come back to the chambers. There again is another effort in the County Board of Supervisors to take TOT tax away from the Chambers of Commerce and roll it back into the general fund. Now I'm committed to making sure that doesn't happen and make a public fight over it. Those are revenues your community produces. because you host people in your hotels, your motels, and your vacation rentals, and that money should come back to you through your chambers of commerce to help market the community. But there are efforts at the county to remove these revenues from you, roll them into the general fund, into the general fund where they can be spent willy-nilly on anything the board decides, or just to balance our budget. And I don't believe in balancing the budget on the folks of the Big Bear Valley or the other communities such as the Morongo Basin or Lucerne Valley that get TOT tax from the county as part of that program. So make no bones about it, there are efforts to strip these funds away from our local communities, particularly the unincorporated communities, and spend them in other areas such as Ontario and Fontana and areas that don't develop these funds. So we need to be very careful. You need to have a supervisor that understands what's happening at the county board level, understand what some of my colleagues are up to, because I'm going to fight for them. And you can talk about getting along all you want, but when it comes down to it, getting the funds that you folks need doesn't always come with cooperation. Sometimes you have to fight for it.
Thank you. I'd like to come back to something that was touched upon when we were talking about businesses and getting permits and licenses and the difficulties that some local businesses have had. What can the county do to streamline the permitting and licensing process? We'll start with Mr. Ryan.
Well, streamlining some of those makes it, again, a one-stop shop for business leaders, and especially in small business. When people are sitting around and want to get into business and they start to move forward in those areas, then they find out, they think they've filled out all the paperwork, then they find out they have to publicize it in the paper and do all these different things. Sometimes what happens is potential small business owners, that interest gets down because of the rhetoric that they have to go through in order to move forward as a small business owner. We should make it more easier for people to get in business if that's what they want to do. Make it a one-stop shop so people can actually start to move forward. And to make sure that opportunities are in the community. Certainly if business owners want to start a business here in the Big Bear Valley, there's no reason why on certain types of the day business offices are closed, that they have to travel down the hill to do it. We have to make sure those services are available for everyone when they want to start these businesses. But also truly understanding what small business owners go through. And that means sometimes those inspections that come through, making sure that there's a mutual respect between business owners and inspectors coming through. I own 2 restaurants, one Yum Yum restaurant in downtown San Bernardino and Pepito's right there in Highland. And when the health inspector comes in, you're expected to drop everything and cater to them. And if you don't, then you're being marked down on certain things. And you have to have that mutual respect of what small business owners are going through, because when that's happening, you're leaving your clientele empty. They're not even getting the service they need. And so you have to be able to see small business owners and have that share of that mutual respect that's there. Because at the end of the day, those small business owners are raising those taxes, the sales and use taxes, property values that are paying for that inspector to be there in the first place. There has to be a better relationship between small business owners and business owners in general and the county and those that are inspecting those services.
Mr. Garrett,
Can you repeat the question, please?
what can the county do to streamline the permitting and licensing process?
Certainly, as I mentioned, our general plan is out of whack. Our development codes don't make a lot of sense for the different communities we serve. And because of that, sometimes it's difficult for businesses to open or even stay open. My office has been on a case-by-case basis working on changing those rules. The one thing I did hear positively today in meeting with a business person was that it seems to be easier to pull a house construction permit in the county than it is in the city of Big Bear Lake. Sorry, Bill. A lot of complaints. But that doesn't mean we're perfect. We have a lot of improvements to make at the county level. And the problem is we have a one-size-fits-all type of situation. I do agree with my colleague that our inspections are unfriendly and not helpful. And we need to change that, though. You're talking about changing the culture of the county, not just from the top down, but internally. And we've been making changes in departments and department heads over the past 3 years, which are partly initiated by me, to start changing the culture in the county. But make no bones about it, it's taken 20 years to get to the situation where the culture in the county is. And does not mean that our employees are not doing a good job and not trying to invest. But until you change that overall culture in government, you won't see the changes in the initial services to the community. And so, I think we've got a great advocate for that in Reese Troublefield here in the mountain community with our Parks and Rec District. He's done an outstanding job with the minimal resources he has. Under my time in office, we spent almost $500,000 on new parks and rec facilities in this county. As I mentioned, we'll be breaking ground on about 4 of them in the next month. And those are things that we've been working on very diligently to make happen. So thank you very much.
Mr. Bagley?
Well, one of the tools that the County Board of Supervisors has is the review of the development code and planning processes. Part of my background as a former county planning commissioner, and I've been in the planning side of it in municipal government for many, many years. But I'm also a real estate broker, and I have developed small subdivisions. I've been on both sides of the checkbook, and I know what it means. It's easy to put rules and regulations out that you don't have to pay for, but on County Board of Supervisors, we are the final authority for what goes into the development code and the planning process. And if those rules and regulations are excessive, we need to speak up and make sure that they're changed, that they're not a drag on the economy. I have to tell you, the cost of regulations are just built into the goods and services that you buy. From your house to the cost of a Coke at McDonald's. And it's important that government recognize the limitations that you have in facilitating business, providing for health and safety, but not getting in the way, especially in this economy of job development.
Thank you. Now coming back to what we were talking about the size of the district and the diversity of the district, how would you balance the needs of the mountain communities with the rest of the 3rd district, which is primarily desert, I guess? Mr. Barry?
Actually, I would say that most of the population base is the East Valley, Redlands, San Bernardino, and Yucaipa. But in balancing the needs of the community, I'll say it again, you have to be here. You have to be communicating with the public. You have to show up at 7 a.m. in the morning and come on Channel 6. You've got to do these things and talk to them. Did that a plug? I'm sorry. Or more importantly, just as importantly, when the reporters call from the newspapers, you need to call them back. When there's issues that are important to the community that newspapers are focused on, they deserve a call back from you within the reasonable time frame, not to hear from your spokesperson. You need to hear from the supervisor, or the person who's going to be that supervisor, and not a hired gun. The other way we've done it, I no longer have a field rep in the mountain communities because I've lost the positions. But I have myself and 3 other staffers that tag team in the mountains here, between George Watson, Steve Howard, and Joseph Turner, trying to get things fixed here on the mountains. We're listening. We pick up the phone. It doesn't go to voicemail in my office. We call my office and you get Fonda on the phone or somebody else on the phone to answer your questions. That's what it comes down to. I put over 130,000 miles on my county vehicle in the past 3 years because I'm out in the district, whether it's 29 Palms, whether it's Lucerne Valley and Barstow now, which are in the district, or the East Valley. If you ask about in my first year in office, I had over 160 different speaking engagements to Rotary clubs, service clubs of all kinds, to property owners associations here in the mountains, to even the city councils that I serve, and the number of we can still hold them, the number of town hall meetings I hold on a regular basis in the community I represent. So that's how you do it, and that's how you learn about the issues and needs of the community, by hearing directly from the public. We're not going to fix every problem. I'll make sure we look into it, but it's a job that is full-time because of the time that you put into it. But it's really about knowing the people you're serving and learning about their needs and issues. And that's something that is very difficult for most politicians who sit in San Bernardino County to do.
Mr. Ramos?
Yeah, one thing, is I've been a part-time resident here for over 15 years. So to see me over at Copper Q drinking coffee, I sit out there, I drink coffee, I've had different people come up, we talk about the issues that surround the community. You're engaged in the community, you understand the issues that are out there by just simply going out there and being approachable. Sometimes people think that elected leaders are unapproachable, that they have these different atmosphere about them. But I'll sit out there and drink coffee and people come and talk to me. That's how I know about some of these sewer issues and snow plowing issues in some of these different areas. You have to be willing to talk to people, get out there and talk to them, and be engaged in the community. Especially for Big Bear Valley. I've been up here, I've worked with the Historical Society. We put together different historical things at the site over there within the museum. We're engaged. We're engaged in the history, the culture of the Big Bear Valley area, and we're not going anywhere. I believe so much in San Bernardino County and the mountaintop that my second home, my vacation home, is here. I'm a part-time resident here for over 15 years, and that's not going to change. I'm gonna be here at the restaurants, you'll see me drinking coffee, come up and talk to me, and I'll be engaged in the different civic groups that are out here, learning the issues. You have to be accessible, and you have to be willing to talk to people and to hear things. Not so much all the positive things, but hear the negative things too. And to be able to work together to move this community forward. And again, it comes back to supporting small businesses to ensure that small businesses can grow. And we have to make sure that we work together, because this is a community. It's different than what's happening in San Bernardino Valley. Here, you got small business owners that intimately know each and every one of you. We need to stay together. We need to support one another during these times.
Thank you. Mr. Bagley?
Well, this is the most diverse supervisorial district that you can imagine, with the mountain community and the desert and the urban core. Most of the population is down the hill. What's really important for me to have you understand, I have been making that drive to San Bernardino to represent my own community for almost 25 years. I've been a part here. I've grown up in the Big Bear Valley. My family had a cabin here. I learned to ski here. I come up in the summertime and all seasons. I see this area as a treasure for San Bernardino County and all of Southern California. I've been involved in municipal and government decisions here over the years through LAFCO and the League of California Cities. You will see me up in this community. I believe it's an important role for the county. And it's like today, I have to tell you, it was an absolute pleasure to have to drive it. For me. It is not a burden. I'm going to a candidates forum in one of the most beautiful places I enjoy going, and it was a pleasure being here. That is my attitude about the Big Bear Valley. That is what we will hear on the Board of Supervisors as you're out.
The final question, prepared question, and then we will have questions from the audience. I guess there are quite a few by now. If somebody still has a question, wants to clarify something each of the candidates has said, you can still put your question in, and we'll try to use it. We're right on time as far as our schedule is concerned, and we're actually a little ahead. The final question is, if you are elected or re-elected, what would be your top priority in the Big Bear Valley?